Well, hello everybody. This is breaking news. One of the most fantastic resolutions ever brought forward in the UN. Now, I got to let everybody log on. It's going to take at least a minute. We got this dead space, but we are going to go through that today as USA leads the charge, at least. Linda Thomas Greenfield. I see people are starting to log on. Folks, it's explosive news. Probably the most monumental thing ever proposed in the UN since 1970. When we get into world binding laws. USA's Linda Thomas Greenfield over Russia, Ukraine has proposed and sponsored a resolution by the United States of America castrating and neutering the presidency of the United States of America. What do I mean? What do you mean, Dave? Well, Linda Thomas Greenfield, UNSC P5 rep, looks at things and says, yeah, we don't like Russia using their veto to get their way in world events. We're willing to get rid of the whole veto process. Now, folks, I'm going to go through exactly what that means. It is not just a matter of removing the veto for actions of the UN General Assembly and giving an equality to all UN states. It also doesn't allow any president of those five P5 powers from executing anyone in the world at will. Donald Trump bombing Soleimani, do you guys remember that 2 years ago? Or France executing the last African president. They've executed more than 22. Now, in news, folks, they absolutely go through, if we get rid of the P5's power, they won't be able to block resolutions anymore. They won't be able to do all these things. But it's also saying that Russia's vetoed the most, and they have. USA 83 times, Russia 143 times, France and China 18 times each, UK almost 50 times, folks. While we can say, hey, when they don't like something, they don't let it go through, they also execute whomever they want, whenever they want. They also get to overtake supply and value chains. If you remove the veto, goodbye, value and supply chains. It's opened up to the whole world. Now, I'm all about equality of the state, the UN state. USA brings this forward. Do you think the executive power of presidency would capitulate to that? Will the USA honor that? Are they really going to let the resolution go forward? They crafted it. They are the sponsor of it. No other P5 members want to co-sponsor it because that would lead to absolute decolonization. You can kiss France and absolutely UK colonial possessions goodbye. I'm totally down for that, folks, if we can see that happen. I don't think Russia, well interlocked with Ukraine, is going to do that. They're not going to let Donbass fall. Now, what I can guarantee you, folks, is post-independence for Ukraine, I can guarantee you Russia will implement that resolution. I'm sure they will. And then it will be USA who vetoes it. Because this has been brought up before and shut down by the P5, including the United States. For example, Donald Trump vetoed the ICC, including the Crown Prosecutor. Folks, there's only one ICC prosecutor for the entire world. That's why I'm doing residential school genocide for the Chiefs for June 28th, 2021. There's only one day, one chance to get there, and we've already been sponsored by China. China gave the First Peoples their place at the UNSC Security Council, a P5 member. Just like USA doing this resolution proposal that I tremendously like. But they know Russia's not going to sign it. But it's a game. It's a game. UK will never sign it. France is never going to sign it. Their colonial assets are large and many. They're never going to sign it. And that shows that it's all propaganda staged. However, I'm sure when Russia, who's absolutely destroying Ukraine right now to take back those Eastern Russian majority-speaking territories, and they're taking them back at an incredible speed. If you haven't seen Mariupol and many others, it's lights out. It's called Phase 2. Russia will be entering Phase 3 soon enough, I would think, probably by the end of the month. Ukraine has no actions to go forward. USA is completely arm-barred unless Joe Biden, a minority president with a minority of Americans behind him, wishes to abuse the Constitution and the people of America. If he wants to breach those laws and agreements, meaning ripping up the Constitution and taking basically a hot piss all over the American people, he can ignore Congress and Senate. He can go behind their backs and we won't hear about it truthfully for about 40 years, because that's the privy of the executive power of presidency. But we can wait 40 years to find out the truth. Now, he can do all these things and say, forget it, I don't have to listen, and I can violate the Constitution and the people, and I'm going to get justice for what he considers to be former Soviet Union creationist allies, I guess. He can do that. But he won't. He won't, because it will be the end of the Democrats. As bad as they've already flubbered in the last almost 4 months now, folks, they're doomed. They're doomed at midterms. There's no doubt in my mind Congress is going to flip. It's just about how much of a flip when only those 400 and some odd seats, largely Republican, are up for grabs. There's still enough Democrat seats to see it flip back Republican. Hardly any Senate. What Senate's available is mostly Republican held. So there's still enough to flip, and I think it will. I think we're still going to see a couple Senate seats flip back to Republican, transferring Senate to the Republicans, absolutely Congress to Republicans. No more supreme power for Joe Biden. It's only going to get more and more ugly for him. He will be a one-term president. All indications show that. Inflation out of control. Prices out of control. Energy independence is now energy poverty. I mean, record time, Joe Biden, Green New Deal, he totally destroyed America. He made Americans last. That's going to cost him. That's another breach of the Constitution. They look at the system of the machine called America. Joe Biden doesn't know how to run it. He's grabbing levers. He's throwing gear. He's throwing tools into gears. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's trying to operate a complex machine, and he doesn't know what he's doing. It's going to cost him. He's one of the worst presidents, if not the worst president USA's ever had. This veto, well, I'd love to see it terminated. I'd love to see equality of the UN states. I believe it's just a game for the United States of America. Well, I love it, and I'm going to post this, because I know it's going to get vetoed, at least absolutely, by Russia. They're not going to shut down their current military operation in eastern Ukraine. No, they're not. So they're not going to end the veto power while they're in the midst of taking back independence for those who wish to have regionalism. They're not going to do it. Minsk was breached, and now they're using their power, as Britain has, as USA has, as many others have. And in some circumstances, a lot heavier than what Russia's doing right now. Right or wrong, folks, is not the issue. The issue is what is international law as it is today. Now, USA says, well, we want to scrap all that. Okay, Linda, if you want to, I'm sure Russia will be back to the table post-Ukraine, and you guys can have a stable world. But remember, there will be no more executing anybody at will. There's no more forced and supply and value chains. No. There's no entering into any more military conflicts, not unless you get the General Assembly to agree with you. And remember, it's not the size of the state, it's about majority of states. Those states that have never been friendly to USA will now have an equal voting ratio to USA, meaning a lot of wealth transfer from some very rich American friends of both the Democrats and Republicans. Folks, I don't see it. I don't see it in this corrupt world that these wealthy oligarchs from all over the world are going to come to terms with that. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I think it's a big, fat show. And to prove it, I'm sure Russia, who talks about equality of the state, would be more than happy post-Ukraine, Eastern Ukraine liberation, to go back and present the resolution stripping all P5 of the veto. No more death penalty, no more invading any state unless the UN General Assembly says you can. And get ready, because now you're going to see religious narratives come forward that aren't Christian-based. That's a minority. You're going to find a lot new narratives in the UN where it's not settled. Come forward. And you, the world's citizens, no matter where you are, what system you live in, will have to accept that. Just a game, folks. It's a game, way for USA to look like the good guy, but I can promise you, I can go back each and every Republican presidency, each and every Democrat presidency, and show you how many times a president in their office has averaged at least 1 to 2 executions over a 4 to 8 year term. That means using the power of the UNSC P5 under their veto power to sanction anyone individually they like, to execute any citizen in the world they like. They will do it. They will do it. The last ICC prosecutor tried to prosecute the USA for war crimes. A video of them executing civilians, women and children. They did that. The video was released. Hidden for a number of years, it was released. ICC immediately responded with, that is crimes against women and children, which is a death sentence. And the American president said, no, we're going to veto, and further, we're going to sanction the office of the ICC prosecutor. In fact, we've taken all their assets, just like they're doing to Russia, all your foreign assets. We're not going to allow you to touch American soil, and we're going to freeze your bank accounts. And they did. They did. Donald Trump did that. And you guys, this is common practice with all the P5 powers. They're not to be held account for any of their crimes. They're not crimes when the P5 commits them. Ukraine is not ever going to be a crime. That is the UN Charter of 1945. It's why nothing's happening to Russia today, and nothing's going to happen to Russia today. You have to declare World War III. That's the law. I didn't write this law. I'm telling you what it is. USA, Russia, UK, France, and China can almost do anything they want, arrest any citizen, do all kinds of measures against any said citizen worldwide, and there is nothing anyone can do about it unless you wish to declare World War III. Now, if USA is serious and they want that, I am totally all for it. You want to talk about decolonization? Snap immediate. Because I can promise you, almost all the UN General Assembly states will vote to have Canada dismembered and redesigned. Decolonization went through a mass majority. If it was up to the General Assembly, Canada would no longer be allowed to be in a colonial status. There wouldn't be any colonialism anywhere. UK will not be down for this. It's Linda Thomas presenting that. Good luck getting Boris Johnson to agree to it. Now, he may, because he knows Russia's going to say no. But once they go down that road, now that USA's gone down that road, I challenge, post-Russia's invasion of Ukraine and after Eastern Ukraine is back in its federalism for the Russian majority, I urge Russia to repost it and say, hey, here's your resolution back on the table. We co-sponsor it. We're there. And you'll watch at that point, USA will say, no, 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 no. And you got to remember too, folks, from there on in, any action any of the P5 do militarily or through sanctions or through other around the world absolutely become a declaration of war. It's no longer a privy of that P5. If you ever want to know about international law as it really is, read my paper, The Nature of International Law as it really is. It's uploaded on YouTube. You can hear the audio, or you can go on my Facebook, search up the document. You can read it yourself. I wrote it for Oxford. I got in that submission. It went for the best minds in the world. It was just a terrific, one of the greatest things I ever wrote and got to submit to world academia in real legal speak. I give it in plain speak for all of you. It's for everybody. Learn the world as it really works. Learn what is and what isn't. I support Linda Thomas Greenfield's resolution. I'm not sure she does. And I think she's banking on the fact that Russia's in the middle of a military operation in Ukraine, just like USA has been just 6 months ago. Afghanistan? Whoa! Now I'm cool with that. From now on, the P5 never enter into any foreign zone conflicts. I'm totally cool with that. But USA has entered as many as Russia, way beyond any veto, because that veto gives them the power to, without question. Now, if you want to dismember that out of the UN Charter 1945 through a resolution, I'm down with that. But I can't see USA within a year honoring it, even if it did go through all the P5 members. I don't think they could stand to honor it for more than a year's time. And I ask anyone to go through American history and show me any time USA went more than a year without any conflicts, or already in a conflict. Donald Trump didn't start any conflicts. He ended some, he made grounds on some, but there were already conflicts running in the background over his entire presidency. In fact, there was always a conflict running in a foreign land with the USA, always in a day. Generally Russia too. UK is on there all the time too. France is there all the time too. All their colonials. Do you think that the Solomon Islands and China's security, do you think UK and the rest of the Commonwealth are going to honor the new changes to the P5's inability to impose veto? Do you think they're going to want to honor that? They're just going to walk away and go, yep, no, UK is going to veto. And if they don't, it's because they know Russia's going to. That's the real game changer. Again, folks, to close out, Linda Thomas Greenfield, UNSC P5 rep, puts forward a real neuter, cut the balls off of the presidency for the rest of its eternity. And I'm down with that. I'm totally down with that. It isn't exactly the next amendment I'd like to see in the Constitution of the United States, specifically on the executive power of presidency. But you know what? In international law, it is. It for all intents and purposes, is. I just don't think the USA will ever agree to that, even though Linda puts it up. And I commend her, and I give her a big kudos for doing it. But why is it being done, folks? Is it because Russia's going to veto it because they're in a conflict with Ukraine? And USA just pulled out of Afghanistan, so now they're all cool with it, now that for a few months they're out of conflicts? Never lasts more than a year. And as you can see, USA is chomping at the bit to get another one. This resolution is only good for the time being. And imagine if Russia did say, you know what, we will pull out, we'll sign your resolution, you watch USA withdraw it. That's what I would believe. Because I can't see that happening. I think you got to be some kind of really ignoramus to not have seen the world for what it is in all its years since World War II. Well, much better. The P5 has been much, much better. They've done some excellent, excellent international laws. It's about imposing the law, and in a lot of respects that's not happened, and that's a weakness of them, but I don't see them giving up their tremendous power. That's a lot to ask. That's my video. Share. It's huge news, folks. Huge news. I'm going to share that resolution, that vote, all the results of it. I am very curious. I'm curious to see what UK and France say. I'm curious to see what all those who hold colonial empires have to say. Because I promise you, Canada can't exist in that kind of new UN state of pure state equality with the absolute binding laws we have today. Unless, of course, they're planning to gut the UN completely. But I think ending the veto will just be a precursor to World War III. That's what I believe. Bye now. We'll see. Things are getting exciting. See you later.